Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Weird.
Go ahead, Myrna. You're
Oh, I'm
fine.
sorry. Okay. I'm very new to this technology. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you something about Hanukkah, about the holiday of Hanukkah, and why it's an important holiday to me, even though it is not a major Jewish holiday. No one goes to temple on Hanukkah. No one fasts, and it's not even written anything about it in the Torah. But in my family, Hanukkah was grand because it offered a beacon of hope, an example of courage, and the possibility that even a small force with a big message could prevail. I grew up during the Second World War. It was a difficult time for all, and particularly for Jews. My parents worried about relatives in occupied German countries. Shiploads of Jewish refugees were not allowed to enter the United States and forced to return to Germany. And brutal lynchings of another targeted group were commonplace. And all the marching that we did, and we did a lot of marching, seemed hopeless. But then Hanukkah came. And for 8 nights, the story of the heroic Maccabees fighting oppression was retold. They were us, the underground partisans fighting freedom in Europe, and they were us in the NAACP fighting lynchings. They were a small group of people fighting for justice, for peace, for kindness, and they beat all odds. I learned that someday I too could win. So is it any wonder that I love this holiday of Hanukkah? Thanks.
Thank you, Myrna. Well spoken. Am I okay?
Yep, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Today, I will be lighting 4 candles. We add one each day until 8 of them are lighted. And this is the 4th day. We started last Thursday. This menorah, I'm just going to hold it up for a second. I hope you can see it. It's made of driftwood, which a piece of driftwood that David and I found on Long Island when walking at a beach one day. And the candle holders were purchased in Jerusalem at a place called the Shuk, the Arab market. This menorah is well worn with lots of wax for many, many happy Hanukkah lightings in the past. This lighted candle, which I call the shamus, is a leader. He's the leader. And when you put the candles in, you put them in from right to left. Each day you add one. But when you light them from left to right. Just a little bit of custom. As I recite the blessing over the lights, we recall that Hanukkah means dedication. It was the temple in Jerusalem that was dedicated after a military victory. Today, we honor the holiday by rededicating ourselves to freedom and purpose. So now we will light the 4 candles. David's helping me. Thank you. I'm going to sing the prayer in Hebrew and then in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has brought us here today to celebrate Hanukkah by lighting these candles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Florence and Myrna, for sharing. Seriously, that lifted my spirit this morning, which has been kind of heavy. So I appreciate you sharing, and thanks, Dave, for the assistance. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Dave and Florence in a few moments. Ken has opening words for us now. Ken, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and share opening words.
The spiritual practice we're discussing today is called journaling. And I actually found some opening words at a website called maturehealthcenter.com. Journaling, not just writing down what happened to you today, but writing how you feel about it. Journaling can help you deal with the past. It can help give you strength and peace for today, and it can help you plan for the future. And men, journaling isn't just for women. It can help you too. Amen.
Thank you, Ken, so much for sharing. I'd like to say a special welcome at this time to anyone who might be a visitor with us, especially if this is your first time joining us on Zoom. And today, we're trying an experiment. If you notice in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, it says live on YouTube. So this is a goal that we've been trying to get to for a while. So some people might actually be watching live on YouTube. And I would just like to say hello and welcome to all of you who are visitors. If you're new with us, we'd love to know who you are. If you don't mind, you could add your name and maybe where you're from and why you decided to join us today. You could type that in the chat room, and then people have a chance to say hello, and we have knowledge of who you are and why you're with us. So it's great to have visitors as always today. So please take time and add your name to the chat room and give us a chance to say hello to you. Our song this morning is a Hanukkah song, which I believe the title is simply O Hanukkah. And Ginger, who's serving as our Zoom director today, has warned me that it's an earworm, which means that the tune will stay with you. You might hear it in your head throughout the day or throughout the week, which is definitely not a bad thing. So join us together as we share and sing O Hanukkah.
Let's have a party for all and the whole table will give you a treat. Sit off and to play with the lot gets to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Sit in it to play with and lots kiss to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. So bold in it to play with and like is to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed, a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
That was fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that. A really nice upbeat Hanukkah song, which is not an easy thing to find, by the way. Our member spotlight today is Dave and Florence Martin, our Dave and Florence Martin. Sorry about that subject verb agreement error for those of you who are aware of grammary things. We have spent the past several months introducing you to our board members and our worship associates and our different committee chairs. And now we're going to start going through our membership list, starting with people who have been with us the longest. And Dave and Florence have been members for 20 years. They joined in the year 2000. So Dave and Florence, if you would take just a few moments and tell us a little bit about your background and some of the things you've done in your life and why you found yourself here with us at UUFCC. Go ahead.
Good morning. We are historical and sometimes hysterical relics, among the oldest in the congregation, among the longest term members, and I have even been a Unitarian since 1965. I became a Unitarian when religion shopping prior to the birth of my first child. I came to the Plan Dome Fellowship the Sunday the minister returned from the march in Selma, Alabama. These were people who put their money where their mouths were, and I was all in. I was a member for a quarter century and served on the board of what then became the congregation at Shelter Rock. Yes, the one that was bequeathed the oil wells. I lived and taught in England in 1967-68 and attended the Hoops Lane Unitarian Church in London. Living out of the country, I was shocked, but that was during the Vietnam War. I was shocked to learn that my country did not sign the Ottawa Treaty banning landmines and considered itself above the International Court of Justice. My first wife got custody of the Plan Dome congregation after our divorce, and the next quarter century found me at the Huntington Fellowship, where I met Florence, and since 2000 at the Port Charlotte Fellowship. I grew up in Minneapolis, moving to New York for high school. I majored in physics, planning to go into research. But a summer working in a lab proved I was not happy looking at the same four walls and the same three people every day, so I became a teacher, later a computer administrator also. I loved every day I was working. I've loved every day since. I love music and was a professional keyboard musician for 17 years. Can't live on a beginning teacher's salary. My other avocation has been sailing, where I held a master's, that's a captain's license, for 30 years. Our sail to Punta Gorda was a lifetime highlight. Ask me about it, Florence says. I have 2 children, Florence has 4. Between us, we have 7 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
Hi, I'm Florence. I was born in Liberty, New York, a small town upstate in New York State, and grew up in Brooklyn, New York, one of 3 daughters in a Jewish family. I still consider myself Jewish. I expect I always will be. I was introduced to UU one summer while working at a summer camp. One of the counselors kept telling me about UU, you know, how liberal it was, etc. But I did not understand him, as it can be a difficult religion to explain if you ever try. After my divorce, I met David at a UU gathering for single people that I had heard about.
Well, who is this?
Excuse me?
Go ahead, Florence.
Okay.
Somebody accidentally unmuted themselves.
Oh, okay. After my divorce, when I met David at a UU gathering, we began going to services at that congregation on Long Island, New York. And that's where I learned that I can be comfortable in both religions. And of course, I signed the book, and I support both religions. I am a registered nurse and a retired special education teacher. When I retired, I became an ombudsman in a long-term care facility on Long Island, where I volunteered for 12 years. I loved being a help to the elderly and the ill. And that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I have enjoyed sailing. I love going to Broadway shows and visiting with my friends. And I'm now taking piano lessons and put down the bass for now. I thank you at present. Okay, I just want to thank you all for making me very welcome in this congregation. And I offer special wishes to all that we regain our lives soon, and that David and I feel safe enough to travel to Florida so we can be with you all again.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing, Dave and Florence. It's just wonderful to hear about your story. And I know that this feature that we've added, hearing from members, has become one of the highlights each Sunday. And somebody said maybe we should just have services where people share like that. And while that might be true and interesting, it did hurt my feelings a little bit. But no, seriously, it's great to hear about people's backgrounds and a lot of things that we just don't know about, even our very long time members. So we do hope to see you soon down here, Dave and Florence. Thank you for your work and for all the tips and ideas and encouragement that you have given us as a fellowship and me since I've been here over the past 15 months or so. Excuse me. At this time, I like to invite you to write joys and concerns in the Book of Life. We do that using the chat feature here on Zoom, which most of you on your computers will find at the very bottom in the middle where it simply says chat and it looks like a dialog box. I do want to share a very serious concern with you. Howard Goldson, who many of you know, went to hospice yesterday. He's been in the hospital for several weeks and actually contracted COVID-19 while a patient at Fawcett here in Port Charlotte. So he decided last Thursday to stop treatment. He hasn't had dialysis since then. And if you know much about what that means, then he will simply not last very long. Sue is surrounded by a lot of friends. They, as a couple, have a lot of friends. And so we send them our thoughts, our prayers, our positive energy, our spirit during this time, which will be very, very difficult. So please lift up Howard and Sue. But please don't call Sue or send her text messages. If you would like to send some cards for the next several days or write a note, please do that instead. This is filled with a lot of busyness and activity, certainly. So if you have some other joys or concerns that you would like to share with the congregation, please take a moment and write those in the chat box now. We'll be playing a song that Jim Boyle recorded this past week for us to enjoy during this time, and I believe the title of it is pronounced Mi Yamalel. So go ahead and write your items for the Book of Life in the chat room at this time, and remain muted if you would, please. Thank you all for sharing, and thank you, Jim, for that beautiful piece of music for us to use as a meditation piece as we share and read each other's joys and concerns. At this time, I invite you into a moment of silence, a minute that we will share together, lifting up the concerns we have to the universe, sharing the positive energy that we need to spread among us these days, especially. But during this minute, we ask that you sit in silence, keep your microphone muted so that we can't hear your background noise, and just think about what's on your mind. All the stuff that floats through your brain, just work to silence that and to release that, because you can't control very much of it anyway. After 60 seconds, you will hear a tone as I ding the bell, and then we will share together as we sing Spirit of Life. So let's have a minute of silence at this time.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart, all the sermons of compassion. The call in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holy grounds, we set free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart, all the sermons of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, give light, shape of justice. Roots holy grounds, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you all for your time to do that. At this time, I would like to remind you that we continue to receive your offerings and your pledges. Some of you are mailing them in to the office, which is fantastic. Some of you are setting up auto payments through your bank, which is excellent. And some of you, an increasing number, are using Venmo on your smartphone, which is terrific too, a super easy and convenient way to give. Today is the second Sunday in December, which means we also have second helping, and it's also the holiday season. So this is going to be a little complex and possibly awkward, but we do awkward well because we practice it every single week. So for our second helping for the past several months, we've been giving to 3 of our local food banks in the area, Harry Chapin, Meals on Wheels, and CHAPS. And we have given literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the past several months to these organizations because the need is so great. We have hundreds, maybe thousands of children and families with food insecurity here in Charlotte County in the area, and these agencies are helping those folks. But we also are collecting this month for Toys for Tots, specifically for children who are at the border, the Mexico-American border, with their families trying to get in to seek asylum. And in an attempt to try to make their Christmas season a bit brighter, we have some folks that are specifically collecting money and some toys to give to those children. And I received an email yesterday that we might have someone here who was actually actively involved in getting these toys to those children, but I didn't get confirmation. So Betty, if you're here, can you unmute and tell me if we have a guest to share for a couple minutes? Because I can't see everybody on the screen.
Oh, Reverend Dan, we didn't hear from you, so we didn't make arrangements with the women in question. But that's all right. Thank you so much for mentioning the toys for these children at these refugee camps. But and I thank you for the last past Sundays it was mentioned, and it was in our newsletter. So I appreciate the support the fellowship is extending to us in this effort.
All right, thank you so much for that, Betty, and I apologize for the the wacky communication. But can people still give to this effort, or has that deadline passed?
Yes, I spoke with Mary Jane. We're gonna send out the checks that she collected this Tuesday. She said she would like to send it out Tuesday. So
Okay.
that way the organizers of this effort will have time to cash the checks or whatever money came in and start shopping for the toys.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Betty. I really appreciate your time and your effort in doing this.
Thank you.
So there's a lot going on this holiday season. I kind of anticipated back in August and September as I was looking ahead on the calendar that December might be a quiet month since we're all scattered around. We're doing this on Zoom. But no, for me anyway, December has continued to be very busy, lots of activities, lots of things going on. We try to continue to create the holiday season that will help bring us and others some joy. And so this is just one of those efforts. Today, as Ken mentioned, I do want to talk about journaling and some introspection some. I can remember as a teenager being with some of my best friends, especially on warm summer nights with a clear sky. Growing up in rural Indiana, we could see the stars. There was very little light pollution. So I remember laying on the hood of cars, talking about some big issues of life. I remember even at my friend Max Barger's house, we would climb up to the top of the roof on his barn and lay on the rooftop and look up at the stars and talk about big questions of life, such as how big is the sky? How long is forever? Who am I and what does that mean? Why am I here? What is my purpose in life? Does my life really make a difference? These and many other deep existential questions are just the beginning of the meaningful.
You're muted, Dan.
And there's something out there that we may have to learn about and discover. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, dedicated his entire life to deep thought and a meaningful life. Plato, an ardent student of Socrates, quotes him often in a writing called the Apology. And he says Socrates used this quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." The unexamined life is not worth living. The Apology is an account of the speech Socrates made at the trial in which he is charged with not recognizing the gods recognized by the state, by inventing new deities and corrupting the youth of Athens. It sounds like Socrates would be a great UU. Socrates is convicted at that trial, and he's offered a chance uniquely to recommend his own punishment. Ultimately, he's faced with the choice of exile or death. Exile from everything he's ever known, or ending his life. In response, he gives this small speech, he drinks hemlock, utters that famous line, and dies. His final lesson to his students is that death is better than living in exile and acquiescing to the demagogical will of the powerful rulers. The unexamined life is not worth living. The emotional epithet of that maxim is life is worth examining only for those who are strong enough to deal with the heartbreaking insights such examination inevitably brings. When we live a well-examined life, we ask the hard questions about ourselves, and often we don't like the answers because the answers can be hard and complex and can sting. As we continue this series on spiritual disciplines, the purpose is to challenge ourselves to grow spiritually in new and fresh ways, whatever that means for you and wherever you are on your spiritual journey. Today, we look at journaling and personal reflection. Neither of these practices are as simple or as innocuous as they first seem. The practice of journaling is simply about writing down what happened during your day, but not just, I talked with my friend today. It's about what really happened during your day. Your experiences, your thoughts, your emotions, your pains, your sorrows, your joys, your triggers, your victories. Just last night, I finished reading, finally, Ron Chernow's biography of George Washington. It's a mere 800 and something or other page read. I didn't read it all yesterday. I finished it yesterday. Washington was faithful about writing in his journal every single day. He had a sense from the time he was a teenager that he was destined for something really special and unique. And from his early 20s, he began publishing some of what he wrote and chronicling that and cataloging all of his journals and writing. But when you read Washington's journals, he was very faithful about writing down the events of the day, of chronicling the weather and who he talked to and what he did. But he rarely shared his deep thoughts or his feelings on any kind of a meaningful level. It was really more of a chronicle than a journal. You cannot truly practice journaling and have it mean something without doing the kind of self-examination that Socrates encouraged and modeled. And I'm not encouraging you to drink hemlock when the tough times come. Here's a question. Can you guess what the most popular segment of book publishing is today and has been for a long time? The most popular segment of book publishing. The answer is self-help books. The genre began in 1859 with the release of a book called Self-Help, written by the affably named Scotsman Samuel Smiles, which I think I would read a book by Samuel Smiles called Self-Help. What that genre has become, however, is millions and millions of titles written by hundreds of thousands of authors, few of whom really have any damn idea what they're talking about. If you include self-help blogs on the internet, the number of ways you can read self-help ideas and thoughts and advice grows exponentially into the tens or maybe even the hundreds of millions. As with almost anything else in American culture, the self-help genre has become about the fast and easy way to change who you are. But if you want to become a more popular or more self-confident or advance in your career or deal with your terrible parents or be an effective boss or learn self-hypnotism or whatever, there are books claiming they can help you and they can help you change quickly. But meaningful change does not happen easily. And it certainly doesn't happen quickly. It's a long, laborious, painful process. I know I've mentioned this before about my dad's alcoholism when I was a child. He was in and out of rehab several times, and my journey of trying to discover who I was and what being a child of an alcoholic meant for me led me down a journey as well, a journey of deep self-examination. When he finally sobered up, it led him down a journey of deep self-examination. We both have been involved in different types of 12-step groups for many, many years. If you've ever attended a 12-step group or you've been involved in a 12-step group of some type yourself, you know that at the very start of that journey is self-examination. You have to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I? What are my values? Why am I the person I am? And what do I really want to keep? And what do I really need to change? You cannot change until you can name, recognize, and discuss your own strengths, your abilities, your challenges, your weaknesses, and your shortcomings. This is where journaling can help. Your journal is your mirror. Your journal is your mirror. So just get paper, or you can do this on your computer and start writing. What do you write? If you're not sure, just start with hi. How are you? I'm fine. Okay, I'm not really 100% fine. Here's what's going on. Start with how you are fine. If you really want to stick with that, write about the ways that you feel fine, that you think fine, that you act fine. That's a starting point. Write about what you see and hear around you. Write about what you ate that day and who you talked to. You can start doing it the George Washington way if you'd like to. At some point, write about your feelings, your thoughts, your experiences, your joys and your fears, your hopes and your dreams. And all of this, as you continue to write, and you don't have to do this for hours and hours a day, start somewhere. Start by writing for 10 minutes. But as you do this as a habit, it will help you look in your mirror. And that mirror might look back at you and say, you know, you are pretty amazing. That mirror at some point is going to say, here are some things to work on. Here are some concerns. Maybe for some of you, their mirror might say, I'm a very stable genius. Eventually, you'll go deeper and you'll write more introspectively. Trust the process. The process takes time. Take Socrates' lead and examine your own life this week through the practice of journaling. Try it for just a few days and see what happens. It's like lots and lots of other things that we've talked about. If we try it and we don't really like it, it doesn't work out, we can change it or do something different. You can stop. I have been writing since I was in puberty. I wrote poetry, I wrote prose, I wrote articles for our local newspaper when I was a high schooler. I've written articles for magazines, for journals. I've been an editor of an academic journal. I've written academic papers. I've written textbooks that have been published. I've written blogs. Obviously, I write sermons. I do words. I find words very helpful. And as I write, sometimes when my head is just full of stuff, writing helps me clear things out. And it truly helps me examine my life deeply. But that's only true if I'm honest with myself. It's easy to lie to yourself. It's easy to pretend like your issues aren't issues, like your problems aren't problems, like your shortcomings don't even exist. And so the challenge becomes honesty. Of course, none of these spiritual disciplines will work if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, but this one especially will fail. And then you wind up with thousands and thousands of volumes of journals that are basically a weather report and the people that you met that day, like George Washington. Not that that doesn't give us incredible historical insight. It does. But the insight into his character, into his values, into his fears, into his goals really come from what we have recorded in his conversations with his closest friends and advisors. Use your journal differently. I encourage you to use your journal much more like Socrates encouraged, and examine your life. Trust the process. It takes time. Take Socrates' lead and examine your own life this week through the practice of journaling. As I said, try it for a few days and see what happens. It will be joyful, it will be enlightening, it will be painful, and it will be meaningful. But remember this. Life is worth examining only for those who are strong enough to deal with the heartbreaking insights such examination inevitably brings. Try it this week because you are strong enough and you are worth it, and your life is worth examining. Amen and blessed be. Ken has our closing words. Ken, go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
Okay. Our closing words today come from D. Scott Cooper. This is our calling. The world aches for us to join together and bring about healing, toil for justice, and produce ever-increasing love. This is our calling. Go forth and act accordingly. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ken. I have several things to share for the life of the community. So make notes or listen up or whatever, because we don't have a printed order of service so you can read all these, but you ought to be able to see a lot of them on our weekly Thursday email update that we send out. Or if you missed them and you want more information, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to help. I want to remind you that our meditation labyrinth out here in our parking lot is open, and I know many of you have taken advantage of that, and we'll be changing meditation guides each month. But also yesterday, we had a very exciting time with people dropping off holiday decorations that we could display outside. And then we had a group of people show up about 3 o'clock and spend a couple hours decorating outside. So of course you can't see all of the work that they did, especially using the lights, unless you come after dark. So I encourage you to take some time and just come and drive through the parking lot and see the work that they did to bring, I love holiday lights. I think holiday lights bring a lot of joy to the season. So I appreciate their work very much, and let's honor that by coming and seeing the work that they've done. Also, this past week and the week before, if you're a member and if you're especially locally here in the Port Charlotte area, you should have received a poinsettia. And I have gotten so many comments and emails and texts about poinsettias. Some people are even sharing pictures. And I want to thank Laura Anderson for making that happen. It was her idea. And she found a way, working with Lori Bell and lots of elves who delivered poinsettias, to make it work. And I know that many of you have experienced some joy, not just by getting a poinsettia, but knowing that there were live people delivering them to your house. And I've heard some of you really disappointed that you missed a chance to have a brief conversation with folks, and in a physically masked, appropriate way, of course. If you didn't get a poinsettia for some reason, if we missed you or overlooked you, it was totally by accident. So please don't be upset. But I'd like to know that so we can correct that problem. So if you would again send me an email or send an email to Mary Jane, office@uufcc.org, we will correct that. If you are a snowbird and you're in Canada, then you can maybe go someplace and look at poinsettias and know that we're thinking of you. It's really hard for us to deliver to Canada these days. But if you're local, we want you to have a poinsettia if you'd like to have one from us. So please let us know. I think it's such a special gift. Honestly, Laura's sitting here because she's learning how to be a Zoom director as well. Honestly, Laura, when you first emailed me about that idea, I thought, this is crazy. There's no way it's ever going to happen. And you made it happen. And it really has impacted a lot of people. So thank you for your work. And I love it when I'm proved wrong. So thanks for that. Another big thing that happens every year that is different this year is our annual service auction. Usually happens in February. It's a big part of our budget. We have a goal that we set to help us make budget that will be raised at the auction. We're not going to have an in-person auction this year. We can't do it. We're going to have an online auction instead, and that auction is open now. And our auction website is not the same as our congregational website. The auction website is uufcc.net, N-E-T. uufcc.net. And when you log into that, you'll be able to not only bid on the current items that are up for auction, but you'll also be able to say, I'd like to give this as something to be auctioned off. So our virtual auction is a rolling auction whereby you can enter an item, a service, a gift certificate, of baked goods at any time. You can set the length of time it will be available to be bid on. It means you have a lot of opportunities both to donate items and to bid on items as they come up over the next couple months. We're going to have some type of Zoom live auction wrap-up event in February. We're still working on the details of that, but it's going to be super fun, and there's going to be all kinds of incredible things go on there. So look forward to that. What we won't have is a meal to share physically with each other. You can sign up to get a notice at any time a new offering is made. You do that at uufcc.net, uufcc.net. Have I said that enough times? Probably not. And there are also weekly auction announcements for what is available and some new items that come available as well. So I want to encourage you and challenge you in a couple different ways. One is think of something creative and different that you can donate at the auction. What kind of a service or a gift do you have that you can offer? Maybe you give lessons, maybe you knit sweaters, maybe you do gardening, or you like to get out and weed gardens, maybe you plant flowers, maybe you can teach a painting class or teach piano, or there's all types of different creative opportunities you can have to donate something to be auctioned off. On the other side of it, because we're doing this over the course of a couple months, you can budget for items that you'd like to buy and how much you'd like to donate. I do want to remind you that because this is a fundraising auction, don't expect to pay the minimum retail price for these things. We're going to bid it up. We're going to have you pay more because this raises money for the fellowship, and it's one way that we help our budget a lot. If you have any trouble signing in, or if you want more information about the auction, you're not really sure how uufcc.net works, uufcc.net, Kay Azar and Fred Parmenter are the two gurus who make that magic happen. And Fred has done a lot of programming work on that website. Kay has come up with a lot of great ideas. Together, they're a dynamic team that are doing some amazing things through this auction. So Kay and Fred are the two to contact. And if you don't know who Kay or Fred is or how to get a hold of them, that's all right. Just send me an email, minister@uufc.org, and I will get you in touch with Kay or Fred. We want you to participate as you feel encouraged or inspired to, either by donating, by buying, by both, by bidding. Bid up other people's bids so they have to pay more. Then you get to have fun doing that, and we get more money, which I like as well. All right, another item to share. Our UUFCC Racial Justice Committee is coordinating a group to study the Widen the Circle report, which was published last summer. I've talked about this several times. It's the report from the Commission on Institutional Change that is helping us examine our white supremacy and our white-centeredness within the denomination and within our congregations. We are going to look at that as a congregation and say, what can we learn from this report? It's called Widening the Circle. We're going to meet weekly for about 11 weeks, beginning at some point in January. Ginger Abraham has volunteered to facilitate the group very graciously, which I appreciate. The ultimate goal is for us as a congregation to come up with action steps that our congregation can take to be part of the important changes not only happening at the UUA, but the changes that need to happen right here within our own fellowship. So please consider being a part of this important work and contact Ginger. Her email is gm55uu@gmail.com, gm55uu@gmail.com, or you can email me and I can forward that information to her. I could potentially be spending a lot of time forwarding and responding to emails this week because I think I've given you like 7 things to email me about. And then she'll answer your questions, and anybody who would like to participate in that, she'll work to come up with a time that works for everybody. So there's not a predetermined time. We don't, for example, we don't know that it's going to be every Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That will be determined by those who participate. All right, that was a lot, and I think I'm at the end of sharing all of those important items for life of the congregation. It's really encouraging to me that we haven't given up, that even though we're meeting virtually on Zoom, and today for the first time YouTube Live, that we continue to have all of these ministries and activities going on. Our congregation is very vibrant, even though we're not meeting in person. And that's encouraging to me. And that's maybe my most important gift during this holiday season, is knowing that all of you are working so hard to continue this fellowship and this community growing and doing some exciting things. Now it's time for us to extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. And now I invite you to join together as we sing Go Now in Peace.
now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
And now, as we close the service, I remind you again to be a blessing to everyone you meet, wherever you may go, and be a blessing to those in the different service sectors who are delivering Christmas cards and presents and gifts and packages. They are overwhelmed right now. So when you see somebody who's working for FedEx, for UPS, for DHL, for the post office, for whatever it might be kind to them, give them a smile, and help them to have a blessed day. Be a blessing to the people that you're sharing a home with during this time, because it's cramped and we'd rather be out and do things. Be a blessing to yourself. Be kind to yourself this holiday season. So be a blessing to everyone you meet. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much. We hope that you have a wonderful week. If you'd like to stick around